Morning, boys and girls, and happy Valentine's Day. Hope everyone gave out maybe little valentines or candies, or did you say, I love you? I hope so. What shape do you think of when you think of Valentine's Day? I think of a heart, and that reminds me of love. We could say Happy Hearts Day if we wanted to. And who loves us? Our parents, our grandparents, aunts and uncles, our friends, Sunday school teachers. And we know the most important person who loves us is God. God loves us because God is love. And one of my favorite verses, and that you know, is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. It's one of my favorite. And I brought a few things with me today because I was thinking, how great is God's love? Now, and can we measure it? Can we measure God's love? So I brought a few things with me, and I want to see if this might help us measure God's love. I have a measuring cup. It's kind of a smallish one. We have all different sizes. What we use it for, and I bet Mrs. McCullough uses measuring cups for her famous cookies. And I wonder if we could possibly measure God's love in a measuring cup. Well, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. My cup runneth over. So I think any cup that I have is going to run over with God's love, don't you think? If our cup runs over with God's love, I guess we can't use a measuring cup. All right, maybe we have something a little bigger. How about a measuring tape? Okay, can we measure God's love this way? We can measure length, we can measure width, we can measure height, sorry, and we can measure all kinds. We can measure buildings. This wouldn't be long enough to measure a building. I can measure how tall each of you are. But I don't know. God's love is higher than the heavens. If God's love is higher than the heavens, can we use a measuring tape or a tape measure? I don't think so. To measure God's love. Can't use that. Well, how about if we use a clock? Time to measure. Wow, the Bible, though, tells us God's love is from everlasting to everlasting. Wow. I guess we couldn't use a clock to measure God's love, can we? So I don't know if we're able to even be able to measure God's love with anything we have. We measure God's love because he gave us his only Son to die for us. That's that kind of love that God has for us. We can't and we don't need to do anything because if Jesus lives in our hearts, we feel his love for us and in turn share God's love to everyone. So we love here. We can never fully understand how wide, how long, how high, how deep God's love for us. And there is a hymn that about that. Can't measure God's love. God did something that no one else could do. He gave his only Son to die for each and every one of us. So on Valentine's Day, don't forget to say I love you, and thank you to God, because God is love, and he wants us to love him as much as he loves us. So take care. Remember, I love you. Have a nice Valentine's Day. Bye-bye.